Hello. Oops. Welcome to Budos channel. Budos. Yeah. Yeah. Budos. This is the channel. Yeah, here is a small ball. Oops. The sound. What is the sound of a ball dropping? Well, that's that sound. So, hello. This is my spiritual teaching channel. With the noise. Spiritual teaching channel. Hello. Let's get a bit more light in my face. So, look at the room. Now, look at the room. And look at my face. Do you see something different about this room, my face, my hands, to what you might see in other people's channels and other people you meet? Do you see something still? Or something alive and real? Or something empty, yet full? Something joyous, yet simultaneously still. Do you sense a background stillness to my movements? I hope so, because that's kind of what I'm trying to draw you towards. So, I wanted to speak about awakening. All right. So what is awakening? Well, what is awakening and what are we awakening to? So what is awakening, as in what item, what thing is becoming awake? And what is that thing awakening to? Well, you could say it's the true self awakening from a dream within the egoic self. It's not the same type of dream as you think of in a dream, in a sleep dream. It's not that kind of dream. So I think there's a bit of a difficulty with using dream. Dream is used a lot in spiritual technology, spiritual books and teachings. I think dream is misleading. No. Because it's not dream in the same sense as sleep, in a dream in the sleep. It's a metaphorical dream. There is another layer to the sense of the dream of ego and the dream of egoic being. There's a really deep sense to that dream, but the way that it's it's used is often misleading. So it feels even confusing for me to use that term to you now. That's going to confuse me as well. It's not a dream in that sense. The dream is, there's a sense of spiritual teachers use the word dream because it denotes the difference between what is real and what is not real. So when you're asleep, you know that the dream you're having is of a different kind of reality to the reality you experience when you're awake. When you wake up in the morning, you know that the dream was a different type of thing than the alarm clock going off, and you're like, the alarm clock is real, or more real. It feels more real. You sense it to be more real. The dream is like another layer down somehow in terms of reality value. It's more fantastical. It sometimes can feel actually more real, but then you wake up from that to a state that is, you feel to be even more real than the dream. So dreams are very intense. They're very strong feeling. Oftentimes sometimes they're vague, sometimes they're very vivid, but the feelings of dreams are very strong in my understanding, in my own feeling of it. And the meanings of dreams are more rich. And then we awake from a dream into our waking state, where things appear less, things change less quickly in the waking state. And things are less metaphorical in the waking state. And things are less, richly felt in the waking state, in terms of, in a dream, all feelings are just magnified. They're really big feelings, even bigger than they feel in the waking state, right? And then, so you come out of the dream and you wake up to the waking state, and now you're in waking state, okay? And the waking state is just, what would you call it? It's a kind of fractured perception, and it's a very narrow focus of attention on the world. And then what we wake up to from the waking state is that while you're in the waking state, you have this extra layer of awakeness, which is a sense of stillness in the background, and a sense that all the items and objects of consciousness in the waking state occur within this larger state, this larger being. So it's just like levels of being, if you like. So the waking state arises or wakes up from the dream, and then the consciousness state arises or wakes up from the waking state. So what does this mean in practical terms? It means you stop believing your thoughts as being true. So you got awakening in the mind. Awakening in the mind means you start to become aware of your thoughts. So awareness separates from thoughts. Previous to that awakening, this is just a separation. It's just a remove. So in the dream, your consciousness is balled up in the dream. You awake from that. Your consciousness moves out of the dream. And then when you move out of waking state, you don't move out of waking state. You have there's an extra remove from waking state within waking state. This makes it sound very confusing. So you still go about your day as normal, you still see things in the world, you still interact with the world as normal, but there's this extra dimension that's come in, which you have a sense that things matter less than they did before. So everything in the world that used to be really important and really burning, and desires and fears and trauma and negative events and possible future events and good things and bad things and all these polarities that happen in life, You have an extra layer of detachment, if you like, from them, and remove. So these things all still happen. The bad things tend to happen less because you don't attract those things anymore, and you don't seek into those things because you realize that they're not helpful to you. And they serve no purpose. Once you've gone through them enough, you go, okay, these dramas and terrible situations really don't do anything anymore for me. There's nothing to gain by them. They're not even enjoyable, because in the waking drama type state, you used to get like a satisfaction or a feeling of being alive from dramas and bad things happening and great things happening. And this awakening is just the awakening to an extra dimension, a deeper dimension, or a further back dimension that separates from drama, separates from forms, separates from thinking, separates from feelings. And that's the only way you can actually feel feelings, by the way, is if you have enough attention, conscious attention to feel these things occurring within you. So yeah, awakening is, in this sense, we speak of awakening, we're talking about detaching your identity and your consciousness, which is the same thing. Your sense of awareness removes itself from its embroilment and enmeshment with thinking and feeling and the events of the world. It might make it sound like you're aloof. No, you don't necessarily become aloof. That can be part of the journey of awakening, is you might go through a period of aloofness where you just don't get involved anymore. You just don't look at anything anymore. You become reclusive, or you become a hermit, or you just don't talk to anyone anymore, and you just like cut yourself off for a while. But then a further stage to that is to rejoin the world engaged, but with this additional level of stillness. So you may just carry on doing everything you've ever done in the same way as you've always done it, but now you do it peacefully, or now you just feel a sense of this is nice, this is fun, and this is just something I enjoy doing, rather than it being some big old, drama to achieve something for the little me self. So, pardon me. So there's a expressive element to awakening as well. This expression or embodiment, which I'm hearing a lot about lately. When I look up spiritual teachers, there's a lot of embodiment talk going on, which is, if you think of ascension and descension, ascending, rising up, and descending, pulling down or deepening. The first awakening can be seen as ascension, pulling back and up and away from thinking. And then the embodiment is a descending of that sense of consciousness and awareness into and out of and through the body system. So when people are going on about ascension, we need to do both. It's not only ascending. Ascending is like raising your energy up through your chakras to detach from thinking. Okay, so your sense of identity removes from thinking, and you go, oh shit, there's a lot more to see. And I was only ever seeing it through this veil of thoughts and familiarity and all this stuff. And then and then at the same time, or afterwards and in conjunction, you have this deepening, of which means moving the consciousness that you know yourself to be in and through and out of and in an expansive way into the world, which affects your relationships gradually over time. They become more harmonious. They become more of an expression of truth, an expression of love, an expression of warmth, an expression of acceptance, an expression of freedom. These are the kinds of things that consciousness tends to manifest as. So as it moves from the unmanifested, the nothingness, the emptiness, the full emptiness of consciousness, the pregnant, open emptiness of consciousness, as it moves into form, it takes on qualities such as a feeling of freedom, a feeling of peace, a feeling of joy, active, active nature, you know, healing nature, compassionate nature, wise nature, truth nature. You know, fun feels a bit too flimsy, but enjoyment. Call it passion. But passion is more like commitment and connection. And passion can feel sometimes like desire, like the craving, the passion of craving. I'm not talking about that. This is more of an expressive thing. These are all expressions and manifestations of, well, it's the nothingness. So there's the void of consciousness, and then don't ask me what this middle part is. There's like it's like a gear. You know, like you got a differential gear. You got so you got a gear going, and it speeds up the other gear by meshing with it, whatever. And that interface between the nothingness of the unmanifested and the forms that arise from that is mysterious. I don't understand that part. It's like sort of an instant flip from nothingness to vibrant, brilliant life. But it's not. It's more like a sort of seeps out into the world like this. You know, it's like how do the blades of grass arise from the earth? They come from a seed. It's a mysterious process. Mysterious process of it cracks open, then and suddenly you have loads of them doing it, and you have a field of grass. Or the blossoms on the trees are coming out at the moment, and I missed it. I missed the openings. So annoying. Like they opened without my permission. I don't like it when I don't get in on it. I'm like, man, how did I take my attention off it for half a day, and the things have opened. The buds have opened without. I wanted to see, you know. Because I pay attention to nature. I pay attention all the time. I'm looking at nature. I'm going, what's it up to? And then I look, 1 minute, bare trees. Next minute, there's fucking flowers everywhere. I'm like, I did not give you permission to go from nothingness to fullness that quickly. You know, I wanted to see it gradually happen. I just like that. I want to savor each moment. I want to see each little moment, you know. I don't want it 1 minute, nothing. Bareness, the next minute, bing, everything's there. No. Not allowed. You can't go, I'm annoyed at the trees. You can't go for 3, 4, 5 months of winter, whatever it is. You know, leaves falling off when it's winter for 3 months. And then all of a sudden, oh, that's it. Yeah, flowers now within 3 days. No. No. It denies the purpose of winter. It should be gradual spring. Come on. Slowly, slowly. No, don't rush. Anyway, yeah, so awakening is the first point of awakening is just let's detach from our thinking, let's observe that, oh yeah, there's thinking going on. I almost don't feel like this is necessary to talk about this anymore. I'm sure there are people who are coming at awakening at the beginning stages going, I've suddenly realised I've got a fucking stupid voice in my head that's chatting shit all the time and it's going blah 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 blah, and I think that's what I am, and I've suddenly realised, how can I be aware of those thinkings if you know, I'm aware that I'm thinking, and I'm aware that I'm the one who this thinking is happening to, and aware of the thinking, so I can't be the thoughts, and there's that separation starting to occur. You know, the separation, thinking becomes smaller, less important, thinking still there, and your true identity is pulling back, and you're going, you observe thinking going across your consciousness or happening within your consciousness. You know, I experience thinking as like this sort of small bug. It's just like a little bug in my consciousness that just goes every night like a fly. It's a fly in an empty room going and most of the time the fly is just hovering in one spot going, you know, it's very, very centered. The fly doesn't really move much, the fly of my thinking. It's more like a centralized pulse, if anything. I feel the energy of thinking more than I feel the thinking of thinking. And when I am having conscious thoughts, I hear them very clearly, and they're very sort of structured. So what do we do? So what's awakening? Awakening is, what are we doing? Well, we'll separate from thinking. We know about this. Okay. I'm the awareness. Yeah. And then what? It's more and more of that, basically. Awakening more and more, pulling back to that again and again and again. Oh, there I am. Here I am. Here I am. Here I am. This part is more what I am. This empty space thing that experiences everything. More of that. More of that. And just sort of like pulling back from all the stuff that you thought you were before, and identifying more and more strongly and in a very rooted way with the sense of beingness. And beingness is hard to define, but it's like, imagine you were a tree. You were always a tree. You were born a tree, and you'll die a tree. But for whatever stupid reason, you've decided to identify yourself as being this one leaf on the tree, which is a representation of the me, the little me self, okay? And like, the tree is carrying on doing its thing. The tree, you as the tree, grow and have loads of different leaves, but you, for some reason, your sense of identity is linked into just this one stupid leaf, which is actually taking a lot of energy from the rest of you as a tree, and is just going into the one leaf, which is becoming black and cancerous and starting to spread to other leaves as well. And so beingness is like becoming more identified with the wholeness of the tree again. So being in the egoic mode is like believing yourself to be this tiny little leaf on a tree, and being mode, or awakened being, this vibratory wholeness thing, is returning to your sense of being the fullness of the tree. And this leaf, this one leaf, is just part of, this canopy of leaves, which could be thinking or form in general. And you are this giant being. You are this big, sprawling, yet very strong and centered being. And you're also connected to this whole ecosystem. So, this embodiment of awakening, this embodiment of consciousness, is about, you come back and back and back and back and back, more and more and more and more and more to your deepest nature and your true self. And you start to express the clarity of consciousness through the physical body. So consciousness in itself is just this pure liquid thing, and even to call it a liquid is wrong, because liquid suggests form, but it's kind of like liquid. It's just purity or clarity, pristine clarity of awareness and emptiness, right? That's the closest I can get with words to what it is. Vastness, openness, formlessness, blackness. Imagine a complete empty black void, infinitely black, and then infinitely white as well, luminous and black and constantly expanding. So imagine the universe without anything in it. Imagine the whole universe. Imagine space, the blackness, the vastness of space, but without any stars and any galaxies. That's the true nature of God. Empty, vast, open, infinitely expanded and infinitely already expansive space, oneness, totality, absoluteness, freedom, something like that. Eternity, that's what it is. And that's what you are. Your deepest fundamental core, and it's clarity as well. But clarity, even clarity, feels like it's bringing in manifestation into the unmanifested. So, but what we're doing with this awakening is we know that this emptiness and this vastness and fullness and luminous nature is what we really are. And then we start to express that and bring that into and through and out of the body and into the world. and that starts to change not only your appearance physically, like my appearance has changed a hell of a lot as I've moved through this consciousness, expression of consciousness thing. I feel like I look more attractive just because of being in my body, being identified with the consciousness, rather than being identified with the little me self and the dramatized emotional self. Just, you know. So my appearance has changed. My way of movement has changed. The way I do the things I used to do has changed. The way I relate to people has changed. You know, I'm much less needy with other people. I behave in a less needy way. I behave in a more uplifting way, I suppose you could call it, or generous. It feels generous. I'm being generous, and I don't seek anything for myself. You know, and if it's not seeking anything, I may ask for things for myself. Usually I don't have to. Things tend to just happen and come. It's very weird. Things tend to happen and come. It's just people will buy you something, or people will do something for you, and I'm like, cool. And it sounds arrogant of me to say that, but that's actually quite hard won, because I had to be relentlessly identified physically with what's beyond the need. So noticing the need and being aware of the need, because there's a period in time where there was a real conflict between what my emotions were telling me and what my being knew was stronger and right. So it felt like for a while I was denying my emotions and denying my needs, but it wasn't, truthfully, it wasn't that. It was that I knew that there was something beyond those needs that was more important, that was calling to me to stick to that, rather than to be to follow these smaller urges. There was something bigger that wanted to express than these puny needs. And I find that actually those needs are fulfilled naturally anyway, in the state of surrender, with major trust in the being nature beyond the needs and desires, that it's like, why did I even try and ever fulfill needs in the old way, when the needs get fulfilled spontaneously if I identify with what's beyond them? Weird. You know. Okay, so what are we talking about? Are we talking about awakening? And yeah, so what do you awaken from? Well, you awaken from a really sharp sense of tightly defined individuality. You awaken from a very tight, it's a tight feeling, it's a compressed feeling, it's a trapped feeling. It's a mind existence that lives very, very in the head. So you awaken from that. You awaken to the spaciousness of the body. You awaken to the vastness and the richness of the world. You awaken to, on a deeper level, your formless nature as just empty, open, black, luminous awareness. It's like the Om of the universe. You awaken to that, and you just continuously, it's like pulling back, identifying more and more as the formless, and that then flows out naturally. And what happens is the flow of the unmanifested, as it moves into and out of form and through form, is like the bounty of nature starts to arise. The bounty of nature starts to arise in your life. So abundance, stupid word, overused word, and people just mean money when they say abundance. Abundance of insight, abundance of fresh ideas, abundance of jokes in my personal life, abundance of humor, abundance of laughter, abundance of love, abundance of kindness, abundance of just energy, abundance of feeling alive, abundance of of sensing, so a sensing of the richness of things, abundance of just the it's like abundance of perception. So, you know, lots and lots of sights. Actually, abundance can be a bit fucking overwhelming from time to time. There's just too many things to take in. You're like, oh, look at this world, it's big. Abundance of feelings, whoa, yeah. And then abundance of creativity, so you can do things with this stuff, and it's generative. And then there's you could call it abundance of stillness as well. So there's abundance meaning lots and lots of the sense of centeredness, a sense of being rooted, a sense of being here, a sense of being firm, a sense of being strong, a sense of being real in a feeling sense. So I'm definitely here, you know, I definitely exist, I definitely feel myself to be alive, you know, because I know, because I feel. And I think the word spiritual is also misleading. Spiritual seems to denote something that I don't think exists. I think the way that we use the term spiritual kind of, I don't know what it refers to anymore, you know. I think when you actually have what the word spiritual is talking about, when you actually experience that, the word spiritual doesn't really mean anything. Spiritual to me, spirituality is supposed to point to a higher truth or a deeper truth. It's supposed to, you know, I feel it has a certain flavor to it, spirituality. It used to be one of my favorite words. But I feel like feels a bit flimsy. I think it's thrown around a bit much. I think it's like, it's a bit like when Christians talk about God. Sorry if you're Christian, but most Christians who I've heard speaking about God, yeah, I'm not sure they're really talking about anything in particular. Some of them are, but a lot of them are just ranting and raving about. It could be just interchange any word in there instead. You know, it could be anything. There are some who you can tell they have an experience of what this God thing means. It's not just some voice that they listen to in their head and they pray to. It's like there's an experience to have. So, you know, spirituality seems to denote something a bit small. And this, what a spiritual experience is, or a spiritual life is, the word doesn't really help. The word doesn't do anything. Spiritual enlightenment. Ooh, can't you just tell me how to be alive? Or like, how do I enjoy myself? How do I have fun? You know, these could all be just the same. It's just the same thing. How do I feel richly alive? Spiritual enlightenment. Ding! Maybe I'm missing the point. Maybe I haven't quite got it yet. Maybe I haven't nailed this. Spiritual enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment. Yes, the more I say it, the more it happens. Spiritual enlightenment. Spiritual enlightenment. Oh yeah. Buddhos. Spiritual enlightenment. Let's just carry on saying it. Spiritual enlightenment. Yeah. Yeah. See, it's all the same thing. I feel like I'm making Jesus pose quite a lot there. Okay, that's awakening. Let's look back at the room. Do you sense something about this room? Do you see something in my face and in my hands that is different? Does it feel like more real somehow? You know, I feel like I could kind of come out, not in a gay way. Already done that. Went back in. Didn't like it. Like, come through the camera. You know, look at this. Doesn't it feel 3D in some way? Like I'm coming for you right now. So they're like alien bug hands or something. But this is the feeling of consciousness. Alien hands. See the room, see the room. Doesn't it remind you of abundance? Doesn't like this? So we have kind of spaciousness here, then we have the abundance of form, colors and things and stuff. See what the stuff in the background, right? And then you have this more spacious kind of openness, and there's a feeling of clarity, just generally. Can you get a sense that it feels like I'm moving through this alive field? Yeah, so it's like as my fingers move, they're moving through air or moving through water, and it's like it's the same thing. It's more like I'm a current of the water. Feels like that. You feel like, in a way, that the whole room is infused with something somehow. That's presence. That's the consciousness that I'm speaking of. It is very, very still. Yet very, very here and very alive. It sometimes looks like I might be dead. Yeah, when I stop moving, it could be that you might feel like, has he died? Or has the video stopped? Is it frozen? No, it's just that the mind has stopped. My mind has stopped. There is no mind in the old sense like there used to be. There's the beingness. And beingness, there's a very different feeling to it than the mind. So sometimes I get tripped up in it, and I'm thinking like, how can I be here still, yet I'm not here at the same time? Because the thoughts, what I used to think myself to be, was this thinking entity, this thinking part that's always jabbering away, saying this and that, blah, 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 blah. And then when that stops, it's like, well, I can definitely see things. I'm definitely aware that there are things I'm seeing, but I'm also aware that in the background there's like it's almost like, this is how I experience it at the moment quite often, a sense of very, very fullness out front and then very, very emptiness out back. So like rich, vibrant stuff on the one hand, and that's one polarity, and then complete vast emptiness. So it's like my vision chakra, my third eye, sees massive potential and color and vibrancy and life, and then at the same time in the backwards dimension, like going back, it's just infinite vast empty space. And then you got my body to deal with as well, where the body's just always saying something annoying. The body's always got some pain. It's always going through some sort of pain. Not necessarily always, but I'm getting more of a sense of peace and a settled feeling coming into my body now. Softness, a peaceful feeling. It's a subtle feeling in the body itself, not as a state of mind, as a state of the body. Just a peaceful, soft, settling feeling, settled, calm, soothed, soft, relaxed, held, warm, not too hot, not too cold, that kind of thing, perfectly, it's like, you could call it like a perfect sensation, or closest to a perfect sensation that you could get. So I'm getting some of that in the body, but I've still got a lot of pain feelings to deal with, mainly from the damage I did to my body through smoking and PTSD. That really fucked up my body system. My stress system was just like constantly stressed, hypervigilant. Pardon me. So that's awakening. You awaken to stillness. You awaken to the richness of life. I'm sure there's another layer that I'm working towards, and I've been working towards it for ages, but the body is just so dragging. The body is just so dragging me. I'm not able to get to this. There's another layer of consciousness that I'm aware is there because I've been there before, and it's where you experience the world as being a projection of yourself. I kind of there and then I'm not there, so I don't see it as a projection of myself. I see it as something that I am involved with, rather than it being my actual self. I feel it sometimes to be my actual self, or to be an expression or an embodiment of my actual self, but there's still a sense of subtle sense of separation between this me body and the world as a body. Whereas I have had the experience many times, actually, in small chunks, of the world as being my body. So these are like they are my body. I literally feel it as part of my body. So therefore I am a very large item. Me is the vastness of consciousness, and this world is the body of that unmanifested thing. So yeah, I have had that. That would be nice. And I like one of the things I really like to experience is where my imaginations and my thinking occurs as events in the world. I really like that. That's really enjoyable experience to have, where I'm thinking about something happening and then it happens. So you could call that instant manifestation or synchronicity. So being keyed into the larger events of the world and experiencing them as an expression of your own consciousness. I quite like that. That's a great feeling to have. It feels like I'm really connected to the world, and then I'm in touch with a larger mind than the small mind. So even though I've got awareness as my primary identity, I've also got the mind doing its thing as well. So I'm having thoughts, I'm having imaginations, I'm having insights and stuff, and trying to figure things out for this body and what this body is supposed to be doing. What the hell am I supposed to be doing with my life? That type of thing. And then when I can get to a point of queuing into a larger mind structure of the world, and the larger mind structure of like archetypal imagery archetypal things. Those are really cool. So when I start to see archetypal energies moving through the world, expressed in events in the world, that's really nice. You know, you see this symbol of a bird somewhere, and then you realize that you're cued into the archetype of birds, or you see the archetype of death or something, and then you suddenly notice a string of the archetype of death happening, and that's just really nice. I mean, it's not nice, the death aspect is not nice, but it's nice when you're cued into archetypal signs. So I might cue into the sign of, like lately I've been having the light of Jesus thing keeps coming to me. So when I see lights, they seem to be an expression of the light of God, or the light of Jesus. And I've never been Christian, you know, I've never been religious as such. I've resonated occasionally with Christ, but usually I resonate more with the Buddha than with Christ. I like Christ, I think he's great, but I think there's a lot of shit that is associated with him in terms of the different religions, and I don't want to get involved with that mess. You know, that's a big old mess. I quite like the pictures of him, but why do we always have to show him being killed all the time? You know, bloody hell. Why don't we show him in his love aspect more? He's an embodiment of love, the wisdom of Christ. So yeah, I'm feeling the light. That's a symbol that keeps coming. The light of Christ consciousness is showing. As I look at the light there, it's a bit too bright actually. But that's been occurring, little bits of that here and there. But it's not got the same feeling to it as it has had before. There's another layer to this that I'm not quite keyed into, and it's because the body is so like distracting at the moment. My body is like really going through a big healing process, and I think it's just I don't have the energy to move to a higher level, a higher understanding, or a higher connection to insight that I've been through before, because the body is just so fucking heavy at the moment. Body is like really purging and healing, and I don't have the extra energy to touch into these more archetypal flows of consciousness, which I really enjoy. They're like really mystical. There's a mystical sense of like feeling. You feel forms in the world, not just as like these little things, but you feel them as like movements of consciousness. So throughout time, I get a sense of leaves being connected with all other leaves, you know, trees being connected with all other trees, and words being connected with all other words throughout the ages. Things like this, you know, very strong, long-lasting, ancient, mystical movements of energy, you know, very powerful feeling there. Yeah. And then the personality archetypes, like the Joker, the actor, the I don't know, the death card again, the death symbol, you know, the egg. Eggs is a big one for me at the moment. Eggs, new life, being born out of eggs, things like this, you know, symbols, seeing how symbols occur and decay, and not even about the occurring and the decaying, but there's something eternal about some of these symbols that I really enjoy. Anyway, that's Awakening. I'm going to stop because I've run out of things to say. And we've done a bit of stillness as well, so it's all been in there for you. There you go. If you haven't had an awakening or cried or something magical happened during this video, then tough luck. Maybe they'll happen on the next one.